Is the left hand path frustrating for you? Most likely, a lot of people feel it is, especially when they get into satanic groups that could give you a bad foundation. Like, for example, I went to a particular group some while ago. You probably heard me in my first and second video about the Joy of Satan group, and I'm gonna talk about it today because it's about a spiritual foundation, and that's why the point of this video is the Joy of Satan a good spiritual foundation? It could be. It was for me for a while, of course, when I was much younger. I'm now 34, but some time ago when I was like really into it, it has its benefits to me as well as the things that I would not consider to be beneficial. Yeah, and I say this because a lot of you, either it's the subscribers as well or those who are just new to the channel and you just love my content. That was one of the videos that got a lot of likes and a lot of views, so I don't mind making like a third video about it. And I'm gonna name drop teala Trovova because, and I'm sorry if I botched her name. She done such a beautiful job on her part of the Joy of Satan group. So what I like to say by continuing that is the Joy of Satan really good for teenagers? Well, what I didn't know is what I know now, is that people should, especially if you're a teenager, when you're interested in a group like that, it's best if you try out the world first. What I mean by that is, this may sound a little bit as if it's not the best advice, but it really is. What I mean is, you may have to go to like a right hand path religion to basically learn, even if it's just for the sake of learning and experiencing, not just a textbook, but learning, being in a right hand path religion to really see if that's really for you. The reason why that I feel like that's a good advice is because when you're a teen, you haven't really fully developed a good world view of, well, the world and religions as a whole, and let alone a path that is very, I guess the perfect word that I want to describe the left hand path would be, it's very convoluted to a lot of people, even right hand path religions. And a lot of teens are perhaps even attracted to the devil wearing black and things of that nature because it's edgy, and I get that. But is it really the best reasons to come into the left hand path? You know, individuals having what is called like these suicide pacts, and you know, these things, it's just, you have to think about it. You really have to think about it, because I'm not really for the killing of animals, killing one another. It's just something that you need to really figure out on your own. You know, I'm not going to tell you what to think about, but how to think. Because when I went into the Joy of Satan when I was much younger, of course it attracted, you know, that type of mindset where you don't know the world very much and you wanted to figure out if this is really for you, and it came off as if that it was for me. And at the moment, at that time, it was, because a lot of the language spoke to me. Now, I'm not going to get to the very obvious that I've explained in my other videos about the JOS that was not for me, as far as the hierarchy of the Aryan race and things of that nature, and how Jews should be looked down upon as the enemy and things of that nature. But I ignored that when I was much younger, and I looked at a lot of the meditations and what's been said seriously, and all I know is that the good that I've received out of that group is that I literally met Satan himself, and it was a life-changing moment from that moment forward. Even now, as I'm in the left hand path, I mean, I've been in it for a little under 10 years. It's like, even though I don't specifically identify myself as a Satanist, but I understand why someone would call me so, because if I work primarily with the Goetia, and 6 of my guardian demons, if you will, are pretty much demonic, then I don't take it to offense when people go, oh, that's a Satanist. Even though I see myself, and this is from source, that's myself, that I'm someone that is an occultist, because I do have Archangel Gabriel, and I work with the Olympian spirits, and I even do the Necronomicon, and I even have Cthulhu as, a deity that I work with. To me, the sky's the limit, so that's why I say, if you hear it from source, I'm not primarily, just working with the Goetia. But that's something that the Joy of Satan, that I remember that group would forbid you to do. They want you to only work with demons because the demons are the way. They're the only way. And I shake my head and I go, no, they're not the only way. That may sound very, very surprising to people on our path, because it's like, wow, Passion Bogad, he just said that Satan isn't the only way. It may shock people, but it's interesting that even working with Satan and other demonic, I don't get any interruption with, let's say, working with Archangel Gabriel, or working with Cthulhu, working with Egyptian pantheons, Grecian. To me, I don't get any, problem with that. There's no jealousy, pettiness there amongst these deities. But yet, when I was much younger in the occult, and particularly the Joy of Satan, that's something that you do not do. I remember Maxine wrote an article about the Kabbalah and how it's just evil because you're working with the Jewish angels, and they're just not good and things of that nature. But it's so interesting that I did the Kabbalah, and I could kid you not, when I look at the book, the Necronomicon, and I get, like, I'm talking about, my vibes it just peaked. I know I have to read that book, and I did, and I'm still reading, and I still love the book because it resonates with me. Well, that's the same thing that I've gotten when it came to the Kabbalah. That was one of the red flags that I've perceived when I was much younger in the Joy of Satan group, because if Satan is saying, hey, look, don't do this, don't do that, and you're telling me that at the same time that you do what you want in the left-hand path, and you're not supposed to do that, not only is that another red flag, but I get a lot of questions out of that now. And all I got was a lot of flaming on at the time it was the Yahoo group, and when it was online, it was a lot of flaming, as if you're wrong because you mentioned Archangel Gabriel. But of course I'm wrong to them, and I started looking at other websites that would give me the opposite of what I was being taught, because that's the start of good research and good skepticism, meaning you don't want to just hear just one side of the story. That's like if you were to listen to the events of the Civil War and you only listen to one side of the war, and people just wrote just their book, and you only paid attention to only that alone. Well, that to me is not convincing. I'd rather listen to an unbiased source that either likes it or don't like it, but they're going to tell you exactly how they view it. It's really good criticism. And if you base it off of that, then you'll understand where you stand. I'm going to take a little sip of this. Just give me a second. And that makes sense because people spoke about the plagiary. People talk about the meditations were borrowed and all this other stuff. And even though I won't get into that, I just simply feel that it's the information to me that resonated with me. If I get results then I don't really care where you got it from. I just got results. But of course, the complaint of other people were like she was claiming it as her own. And that's something that I can't get into because I'm not her and she's not here to defend herself. All I'm saying is that with the results, I benefited from it. I met Satan and I'm happy. You know, but I still feel like that a part of that journey was about a lot of learning, about a lot of growth. And if you're young and you're really trying to figure out what you want, before you do anything, try something else before you get into the left-hand path. And particularly groups like the Joy of Satan group. I'm not saying don't join it. A lot of people will. And I do understand where they're coming from because I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm saying you listen to what they say, because that's the whole idea when I basically just name dropped another sorceress or person of the group. Her name is Teala Petrova, and I thought that her work was very, very good. You know, I looked at her YouTube page and I thought that she was really cool. I even subscribed myself because she's pretty cool. She's spot on when it came to the Joy of Satan group, because when I was there, it was, and I'm not just bullshitting you, when I was there, it had to have been the first month or so. I'm doing those practices that they tell you to do, and within that same instance, Satan told me, "You're here only to learn, and we're out." He's like, "We're out," and I'm like, "What does he mean by that?" Because, you know, did I do something wrong? I didn't even know. But slowly but surely, I left eventually, and then things became, you know, came to the light, and I realized what Satan meant, and that was one of the convincing reasons that I knew that it wasn't fully for me. You know, it wasn't fully for me. I can still give thanks to Maxine for the information, but when it comes to someone who does not know, they're inexperienced and they're a teenager, I still feel they have to really look at the world as a whole and learn before you get into the occult, because that's when you start to see both sides of the issues. Because when I was in the right hand path religion, it was demonic, there's demons, that the tarot cards are evil, fortune tellers are that, Leviticus said this, and blah blah blah, and I ate it all up. But interestingly enough is that I was that person that, as you were saying that, how come I feel connected to Satan the whole entire time you're saying that? And that's why I said, even when you have these gut feelings, even as a teen, and you're drawn to the JOS, again, I'm not saying don't join. You could join if you want, but make sure that if you are paying attention to these red flags, listen to yourself. And hopefully that you're able to decide for yourself, see what move that you want to take. Because my move was something personal, and I had to basically leave only because that it wasn't resonating with me anymore. But I give thanks to the education that was given to me, but that's as far as I go. But I kid you not, it's like you really, really have to think, because the stuff that I've heard, like I believe, and this is me thinking about like many years ago, 666 Cobra, or Cobra 666, Hooded Cobra, you know, he gave a lot of, you know, sermons, that's what they call it, sermons, on the Yahoo group, and we were to eat it up. A lot of it was just, you know, about Nazism and things of that nature. But then on the other half, I thought it was really good, because if you guys remember the 40-day program, I like that. That was actually pretty cool. I thought it was very creative, and I think he had a part in that too. I think that was pretty interesting back in the day. But the point of me bringing that out is that I'm okay when it comes to improving oneself with a program like that, to grow like that. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I have a problem with is when teens go to, let's say, any group and they don't do their homework until it's too late. Here's a good fight point. I never understood this. Never understood this point. You remember, if you were a part of the JOS or you still are a part of the JOS, do you recall when they talk about angels like attacking them? Isn't it funny, like they were the only satanic group that only spoke about that? You know what I mean? It's like, huh? Dude, it's like I work with Gabriel the Archangel. I'm working with the Olympian spirits. I'm not being attacked. I worked with the Kabbalah, and that's Jewish, angels. And I was attracted to that. It's one of those things where I say, like, to really move closer to the truth, you have to follow the path of lies. They will lead you to the truth. And I realized that you have to really think how to think about these things. Not what, but how. How does it affect you? How do you feel about it? If you're comfortable and if you're safe. I kid you not. It was just such a journey. And I knew that what they were saying wasn't all bad, because when she wrote articles about how demons aren't evil and things of that nature, I agreed with. But what I did not agree with was a small part, because I came from a line of a very fundamental Orthodox Christian background, and they were very Orthodox. So in other words, God is right because he's right. Period. That's it. You don't question it. God's word is inerrant. Stuff like that. That was interesting, because when I connected that line of thinking in the right-hand path religion, and I thought of how the left-hand path, or in particularly the joy of Satan, they did the same thing as they point fingers at the right-hand path religion. They saw Satan as God, which Satan told me many times before, but one time in particular, it was a lucid dream I was in. It was super real, and I don't know if I said this in my earlier videos, but the whole entire dream itself was black, and I saw figures in the back, and I knew these were the great god powers of hell. And I saw in particularly Satan smiling at me, but he was smiling for a reason, because I was bowed down to him. My head was down, and I'm bowing down to him, and I'm treating him exactly the way I'm taught. Obviously, it's like I didn't know how wrong I was or what I was doing, because this is what I was taught, So I'm bowing down to him, and I'm like, Lord Satan, Father Satan, and things of that nature. And then I hear chuckling amongst the great god powers of hell. And I'm looking around, and I'm like, why are they laughing? And I had a smirk too on my face, just in case I, missed a joke, but I didn't want to come off as if I'm the odd one out. So I smirked too, and I'm like, nervously. But Satan told me, get up off your knees, and why are you worshiping me, and stop calling me God. Changed me. That was like one of the nails into the coffin. I'm like, if that right there is not proof for me that I have to follow how I feel and what Satan is telling me specifically, then I don't know what else is. That's why I had to do what I had to do in my own personal life, and then leave that particular group, because it just wasn't working for me. That was the nail on the coffin. And ever since then, it makes a lot of sense, because when I work with Satan, though it can get very frustrating and convoluted, eventually it makes sense, because Satan, he educates me, he teaches me, he directs me to information that I can learn for myself. And I learned that way. And the point of me bringing that up is that in order to learn, you have to make mistakes. Even though Satan doesn't make mistakes, he puts you in a situation where you fail, but you end up learning your lesson eventually. So in that way, I knew that he wasn't God, because it doesn't make sense to be God, who is all-powerful, all-knowing, and you don't know how to do XYZ. It just makes better sense if you're not God and you put me in a situation where it's something for me to learn and it gives off the impression, but I've learned something and I was able to make sense of it. Satan was able to make sense of it, and then I benefit. You see, but that is what I have learned on my journey when it came to the joy of Satan and then just leaving out of it, you know. It was definitely a journey. So please, for you friends, if you can, write down below in the comment section your journey into the JOS group or even out of it. It would just pretty much help everyone else in the Patched and Bogan community to basically learn, and it just heightens the awareness. Okay, I love you all. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and if you did, thank you. Okay, I thank every single one of you. I love you all. Keep up the good one, and hell Satan. Love you all. Bye. Have a good one.